very interesting lecture. It was particularly interesting for me because I used to be a correspondent from Southern Africa, not central part of Africa, and I was following very closely the events in Rwanda in '94. It is called dark or genocidal tourism.
Yeah, genocide tourism. Genocide tourism is
not genocidal at all. Yeah.
No. Genocide tourism is essentially it's one of many kinds of tourism that fall under the umbrella or overriding title of dark tourism. I mean, dark tourism is essentially tourism to places associated in some form or another with death, suffering, disaster, atrocity. So genocide tourism is. It's a very specific, and if you like, the purest or darkest form.
Or the darkest one, yes. And what are your conclusions? Why people are going to such unhappy places?
I think they go there for positive reasons. What I've been trying to find out, or through my work, is to try and challenge the idea that human beings are naturally voyeuristic. You know, you drive along a motorway, you see a car crash, you slow down, what we call rubbernecking. What I've been trying to show is that actually that is not the case in terms of tourism to genocide sites, that people go for a positive reason, not to delight or be fascinated by death, but to try and understand how it can happen. And certainly from the work I've been doing, it's quite evident that people want to go to Rwanda to see the genocide sites, to try and find out, to try and understand how it could have happened. And what the research has shown is that they don't understand how. They understand the scale, they understand the horror of the atrocity, but I don't think anybody could ever fully understand the why. But nevertheless, even though they can't understand why, that they come out with this sense of hope, because what you can see is that despite the horror of the genocide, Rwanda survives. Not only does it survive, but Rwanda is thriving, it is growing, it is at the moment a peaceful country, becoming a more prosperous country. So the positive message is that through going to a genocide site, you can understand that you understand the resilience of the human race, of human beings, to survive and move on from an event like the genocide of 20 years ago.
And there is a larger concept of dark tourism.
Yeah.
I had a privilege a few months ago to go to demilitarized zone in South Korea.
Oh, did you? Right, yeah.
So it is one of the examples of dark tourism. I don't know if you are aware that here in the area of former Yugoslavia, because of so many wars, we still have a lot of the examples or sites of dark tourism or so-called dark tourism, because maybe we are not aware that it can be an example or the site of the dark tourism. Normally, what are your suggestions how to develop such type of sites, and not because of money, but because just of a remembrance?
Sure. I think two things. Firstly, the term dark tourism is unhelpful, because tourism is all about usually about fun and relaxation and leisure. Dark is all about death and the darker underbelly, if you like, of human existence. So it's not a very helpful term, and it's applied to so many different kinds of sites. Having said that, I think the promotion of all the places you're talking about and the way they're promoted would depend on the site and the event. But I think it is more than the commercial side of earning money from tourists, although that is a useful byproduct. I think in a country such as Serbia, which is, has a turbulent past, both recent and further back in history, through the presentation of these sites, through promoting them as dark sites, not only will it inspire confidence in Serbians themselves to confront their history, recent and more distant, to confront it and to begin to understand it. But through presenting it as a tourist attraction or a tourist destination, it also demonstrates the confidence that you are happy to share that turbulent past and sometimes controversial history with the outside world, which will also strengthen Serbia's position, if you like, within the global community. Because the more that people from outside understand Serbia and what has happened both recently and in more distant history, the more there is that understanding, the more people will in a sense accept Serbia, and Serbia will accept other people. So it's a two-way kind of communication. So in other words, these sites can actually mediate between Serbia and its history and the outside world.
Yeah, I think that type of tourism is quite interesting in this year, which is 2014 and 100 years from the beginning of First World or Great World, as it was called. Any ideas what to do with that anniversary?
Well, I mean, my personal thought, and this is not academic, my personal thought is that what we shouldn't be celebrating now, we need to be celebrating in 4 years' time.
Yeah, 4 years' time.
Because I don't think the beginning of the First World War is anything to be celebrated. It's certainly something to be remembered, but I think in quiet reflection as opposed to celebration. But it was the worst war. It's not called the Great War for nothing. It was probably the worst war. It was for all sorts of reasons, both in terms of the number of deaths. It was this, it was the change from an old-fashioned form of warfare to a new form of warfare, which happened in the Second World War.
One.
Yeah, so it's very important for that. People need to commemorate and remember how and why it happened, really as a symbol of that it should never ever happen again. How you promote it is because it essentially it was the spark was in this part of the world, and it needs to be recognised. I don't think any country should be ashamed of its history. It happened, and I think to promote it as part of the European commemoration of the Great War, it should be part of that. How you actually do that is, I can't give specific examples, but it should happen.
And finally, you are here as one of the key lecturers. Had you any contacts with the College of Tourism previously? Any cooperation?
No, not previously. I was honoured to be invited, and I think it's through my previous work. It's obviously the kind of things that I've been researching and writing about is of interest to people who work here, and so what I'm hoping is that this will not be the end, but the beginning of a good relationship with the College of Tourism. I'd very much like to engage, and particularly in the area of dark tourism, and I think there'll be some fascinating research to be done in Serbia. At a basic level, developing just a list of all, if you like, of all the dark sites, and then looking at how they could be categorised and perhaps promoted under different themes. I think it'll be some very interesting research for tourism in Serbia.
Good. Thank you very much.
My pleasure. Lovely to talk to you.
Thank you.